the 23rd day of November 2022. It's my hope that you had a great night. Rise and shine, and welcome to Morning Cafe. My name is Linda Alela. We are here as always to kickstart the day by looking at the stories that are making headlines as we decipher on them. It is a conversation of the World Cup, and of course Saudi Arabia's turn misses Argentina, as well as we get to see that aspect of us upset, of course, in the desert, as one would want to say it, and as captured in one of the papers this morning. It's Saudi's silence Argentines in Qatar, and I'm sure most of the people are following up on this interesting game. But away from it, there's so much that is happening in the country right here. The maize conversation is still on, and of course, members of parliament are now joining in to say that this is certainly not the direction to go. They say, or one would want to look at it as though they are all united against the import of maize, because they say this will largely, hurt the farmer that is in the country. So we'll be looking at this conversation. We continue to expound on it as we also get to see what the members of parliament that will be having this morning have to say in relation to the same as well. It's not all rosy for parents, because reports are that the fees burden will be will be up. That is, of course, for the parents amidst all these difficult times after the COVID-19 that is outbreak, and looking at the fact that we're trying to catch up with the school calendar in 2023. They say things will go back to normalcy, and really with the high cost of living, the parents will not get it easy. And so away from it, we'll also be looking at what is expected on the other side of Meru County. This has MCA's plan to impeach Governor Mwangaza, and of course 68 out of 69 Meru County MCAs have drafted an impeachment motion against the governor, that is Kawira Mwangaza, citing nepotism, a story captured on page 22. And so we'll get to see whether she will be lucky to be off the hook. And these are the key stories that we'll be looking at. Karibu sana. My name is Linda Alela. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela TV 47K. The very same stories that I have spoken about are the ones that find themselves on the papers this morning. It is maize as Kuria faces tsunami, and of course this in relation to his utterances. It's been an outage as members of parliament allege plan to cripple this very sector. So we'll be looking at it, and again, a conversation on impeachment. Revelations that Kenya will import about 11 tons of genetically modified maize seed add to the controversy over the GMOs that has seen members of parliament as well train their guns or trade their guns on to collect signatures to impeach, that is Moses Kuria. And in addition to opposing importation of GM maize, members of parliament as well want the government to halt its plan, that is to bringing grain until local farmers produce has been bought. And of course this as the cost of maize flour continues to soar, as captured on page 2 and 3. One of the biggest stories that has been making headlines for the better part of last week and coming to this very week, and as well today we continue to decipher on the same. Upset in the desert, Saudi silence Argentines in Qatar. This as Messi's first half strike from the sport was not enough to guarantee South Americans victory in Group C as Saudi Arabia fight back. That is from a goal down to win 2-1 at Lusail Stadium. This, as you have seen right there, is the biggest story, and that is in the world of sports as the world continues to follow up on this conversation of the World Cup. It's captured on page 42 and page 43. Away from it, Ruto and Raila face new headache that is in the mountain as President William Ruto and his Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition leader, that is Right Honorable Raila Odinga, that is his counterpart, are facing tough balancing act in their bid or in their grip of the vote-rich Mount Kenya region amid the numerous threats that are from their key allies in this very area. Some of them are saying that, well, for the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, there is no debt that is there, because for the very first time in history, courtesy of them, he managed to garner lots of votes from this side of the mountain. Well, and also the new headache apparently fueled by the recent parliamentary elections, that is for the members of the East African Legislative Assembly, YALA, in a wake-up call for the two bigwigs as they ponder on their political future. Well, evidently it is the hope of President William Ruto that he would be able to hold the grip that he managed, that is at the level of the mountain, if at all he will be successful in 2027. But just how lucky is it for him, and what is the plan for the Right Honorable Raila Odinga? Those are the key stories, as you have seen right there on the back page of the Daily Nation. The question of education, they now want to renegotiate their pay deal with the government. That is, of course, the teachers owed about 1 billion in acting allowances, and union accuses the TSC, or the Teacher Service Commission, of failing to confirm tutors who work in acting positions for a very long time. And so we'll be looking at it at a glance. And of course, the proposed new pay package for the tutors is about 24,250 shillings, amount of course in shillings that a teacher serving at job group B1 then earns in basic salary. And so as we have this conversation, we get to see just how best it could be addressed. Households borrow about 58 billion in 9 months on a tough economy. It's quite sad, a report, but it's the reality of the matter, as you can evidently see. And they say that households borrowed about 213.5 million daily from commercial banks, microfinance banks and SACCOs in the 9 months to September, as biting cost of living pushes more people towards loans to settle their daily bills. That one is captured right here there as to the Daily Nation. And now we shift to the Standard newspaper. Definitely the face of Moses Kuria as well finds its way there. Maize imports, members of parliament train their guns on Kuria, and of course that is barely 70 days in office, as President Ruto's government is facing headwinds over its new policies. One such is a decision to allow importation of about 10,000 tons of GM and conventional maize. And now angry leaders not only want the plan stopped, but as well are threatening to impeach Trade CS Moses Kuria. This, of course, even worse, characterized by his utterances in relation to the GMO foods. Any agency that will import the maize will be on its own. If Trade CS Moses Kuria continues with this, we will impeach him. He is not above the law and should respect the farmers. This is according to Pokot South Member of Parliament David Kosing. And we seek to understand some more on how best these members of parliament are going to speak for the people of Kenya, for the adjustments to be made. And down to the new fees burden, or new school fees burden. Kenyans who are already burdened by the high cost of living will now be dealt a blow as the government moves to end the school fees holiday that saw some caregivers getting some reprieve of about 8,500 a year. And Basic Education PS Julius Swan says that schools will reverse to the old school fees charged before COVID-19 outbreak. A story captured on page 8. Just how best will the parents manage? Equally a question of wait and see. On the other side, and that is at the level of the county MCAs, a plan to impeach Governor Kawira Mwangaza. This as captured on page 22 of the Standard newspaper. And perhaps, also they are expounding further on the question of the game, that is the World Cup, as Saudi Arabia stand misses Argentina. Those are the key stories that is on the papers this morning. Mr. Director, if we have the People Daily, then we can have it up so that we see what it details, but more or less the same stories that have been captured right there. We have it. Yes, there you go. Storm over maize as Member of Parliament fight impeachment, or fight this conversation of importation of the same. Zoom it a bit. Zoom it out. Some more. Yes, some more, or scroll up and down so we're able to see the other stories. Yes, there you go. Harvests are ready and legislators want government agencies to buy grain that is from the Rift and Western region, saying that about 25 million bags are available now as ship raises a fresh controversy. That is amid the reports it has started offloading about 10,000 tons of maize, as captured on page 4. On the other side, Morocco, Croatia face off as Germany takes on Japan in day of high drama. That is in relation to the world of sports and the World Cup. What are the other stories up? Up on the upper side, let's see that there's another story on the upper side. Yes, mob attacks claim and 15 lives in 1 week. A spate of fatal raids of robbery suspects has also left over 30 other serious hurt, and as citizens increasingly take law into their own hands. This as to the questions of insecurity in Nairobi and other counties. We also received reports of the fact that it is getting bad in Kakamega County, and so we as well be following up on this, perhaps to have a very candid conversation as to the question of security with security specialists to understand what the government seeks to do to tone these rising cases of insecurity. Now, allow us to pick some of the stories prepared by the editorial team at TV47. The mediation and peace practitioners of Kenya, Zimbabwe, Somalia, and South Sudan have held a consultative meeting that is to find different ways on how to solve the cases of insecurity in parts of North Rift in the country. Meanwhile, at least about 46 schools and 2,000 needy households, that is from drought-stricken parts of Meru, Isiolo, and Samburu counties, have received food aid from well-wishers. And of course, this is a roundup of stories from the level of the counties.
Cases of insecurity in parts of North Rift have been on the rise, attracting the attention of mediation and peace practitioners from Kenya, Zimbabwe, Somalia, and South Sudan.
We are either still in conflict, or we are also countries that are in transition from conflict to peace. But there have been a number of initiatives taken by our various governments.
My hope at the end of this workshop is to see to it that the contents of the book that has been launched, particularly the practical issues that Deka and Simon have documented, will benefit the participants, largely who are drawn from counties that are largely affected by conflict.
On Tuesday, the stakeholders launched a book that will steer the peace movement in the regions, asking residents and Kenyans to utilize the book as a way of restoring peace in the area.
There are 3 key points. One is, when you're working for peace, it's not about right and wrong. It's really trying to understand the other side. Where are they coming from? What is behind what they are saying they want? What is really the concerns they have, the story they have? So to see and try and understand where people are coming from.
Wale watu wataenda sasa yani kushokosa wengine, serikali wakalie pale kwa sababu wakiwashilia 1, 2 mpaka 100. Watu wameshachukua sheria mikononi yao, watarudisha namna gani?
Meanwhile, at least 46 schools and 2,000 needy households from drought-stricken parts of Meru, Isiolo, and Samburu counties have received food aid courtesy of a partnership between members of the Rotary Club of Isiolo, the Rotary Club of Nairobi, the Village Trust, and the Chandaria Foundation.
Mimi nashukuru kwa sababu ya hawa wageni wamekuja kututembelea, wamekuja kutuletea chakula. Kwa hivyo tunawashukuru sana.
In Kisumu County, the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union KMPDU has asked Kenyans who are yet to take their COVID-19 jabs to move with speed and to do so to avoid any dangers in case of another outbreak of the disease.
As of yesterday, only 10 million Kenyans had been vaccinated against a vaccine availability of around 30 million. So we still have 20 million plus vaccines in the fridges, and some of them have expired and been thrown away.
No more business in Nambale sub-county, Busia County, came to a standstill after border operators blocked the roads, demonstrating, asking the area authority to arrest the member of county assembly who is alleged to have attacked one of them, injuring him in an unclear circumstances.
Mimi kama Motoko nina uchungu sana kuona ya kwamba kiongozi ambaye amechaguliwa kuongoza wananchi anakuja kutudhulumu na kupiga anapiga watu. Hiyo si uongozi. Kama anataka vita aende kule Kongo, apigane. Kama anataka vita aende kule Ethiopia, Tigray, aende apigane huko.
Finally, private school owners in Elgeyo Marakwet have asked the government to consider them during the distribution of resources in learning institutions instead of sidelining them during the exercise.
Sisi kama mashule ya kibinafsi, sisi wenyewe tunachenga hii structures. Na kuna bahati ya pesa walikuwa wamesema hiyo capitation. Tunaomba pia capitation ikuwe ya wanafunzi wote. Because hakuna mwanafunzi ya private school na hakuna mwanafunzi ya public school. So tunaomba pesa ikikuja iwe capitation yote across Kenya yote.
Sylvia Nyongesa, TV 47.
Nakuru County Government, together with the security team, have committed to working together to ensure security ahead and during the festive season. This was agreed in a joint meeting led by County Governor Susan Kihika, Nakuru Police Commander Peter Mwanzo, together with other leaders from the security departments in all the 11 sub-counties, as Chichi Josephine tells us.
Speaking during a meeting in Nakuru to deliberate on issues regarding the general security situation in the county, the county police boss Peter Mwanzo revealed their commitment in ensuring tight security to residents.
We have increased patrols both day and night, and we've equally done what we call also surveillance through intelligent-led police patrols.
He noted that over time they've worked so hard to break down the gangs that were terrorizing some parts of Nakuru, which has seen the level of crime go down in the recent times.
Now the cases have gone down, totally gone down, but one or two issues isolated here and there, they still keep on coming. Lakini kwa sasa hizo syndicates ni kama zimekwisha kabisa na tunaendelea kuzivunja kabisa.
Mwanzo, however, said there was a challenge with witnesses not coming out to report the crimes due to threats from the criminals, further calling on residents to report any crimes witnessed and assured them of their security.
Kumekuwa na challenges, especially tukija pande za prosecution, kwa sababu wale mashahidi wengine they are not coming out. Hawakuji kutoa ushahidi maana wanaogopa, pengine wanatishwa na wale vijana tena.
On a part, the Nakuru County Governor Susan Kihika commended the good work by the police as she committed to work closely with the team to ensure 24 hours security for a 24-hour economy that she said is part of her agenda during her term.
Really, we have to partner together with my colleagues here in the police force and make sure that the people of Nakuru have security. People are able to go about their daily duties, whether it's in their businesses or be in their homes and feel secure. And also beyond that, for those wanting to come and invest in this county, or visit this county, that they feel it's a place where they can comfortably come, feeling that their security is well taken care of.
Chichi Josephine, TV 47.
Now, after 2 weeks of searching, police in Migori have finally nabbed a preacher alleged to have molested and killed a minor in Rangwe, Homa Bay County. And as Sylvia Nyongesa reports, the suspect had taken refuge in a church in the neighboring Migori County, where he was arrested early Tuesday morning.
Police from Migori Police Station received a tip-off from one member of the Legio Maria Church about the whereabouts of Raphael Okinyi, who was on the run after allegations of defiling and killing a minor in Homa Bay County surfaced. And on reaching the Legio Maria Church in Kwoyo, Mapera village in Suna East constituency, they arrested the suspect.
Walidirect na askari wameenda wamemkamata huko kanisa ya Kwoyo. Kijana ambaye anaitwa Raphael Okinyi wa miaka 18. Nasikia anaitwa kasisi ya Legio Maria. Mtoto wa 10 years alikuwa defiled na baadaye akawawa. Na wanasema huyu kijana ndiye alifanya hiyo kitendo na akatoroka huko Rangwe akakuja akaingia hapa area ya Migori.
Okinyi was then transferred to Rangwe Police Station and will be arraigned at the Homa Bay Law Courts to be charged for defilement and murder.
Na anarudishwa huko Rangwe aweze kushtakiwa na hiyo mashtaka ya mauaji.
The 18-year-old, who is a known Legio Maria leader, is said to have defiled and later strangled a 10-year-old in a maize plantation in Kamwombo village, Rangwe sub-county of Homa Bay County on November 3rd and went missing.
Alikuwa amejificha kwa sababu baada ya kutenda hiyo kitendo huko alitoroka.
A passerby discovered the badly injured girl and took her to Homa Bay County Referral Hospital, where she died while receiving treatment. Sylvia Nyongesa, TV 47.
Now, the Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu says the government has set aside 1.9 billion shillings for the school feeding program in ASUL areas. And Machogu, who appeared before the Senate Education Committee, has refuted claims that he had the project stopped.
Children are among the worst affected by the ongoing drought in the country. The situation has forced many to stop going to school, as their health has been compromised as a result of hunger. The dire situation reported from counties in arid and semi-arid regions is what informed Tuesday's meeting between the Senate Education Committee and the Education Cabinet Secretary. The committee sought answers as to how the school feeding program was being implemented and if it had been stopped in some areas in the country. Claims that were refuted by the Education CS, who said the government has always been committed to feeding its children.
This particular program is budgeted for each and every year, and the government, knowing the importance of this, has been able to give budgetary allocation every year. And this particular year, financial year, we have 1.9 billion, which we are using to supply food to the asile areas.
Machogu says currently the school feeding program is covering children from 26 counties, but the senators were adamant, saying the food was not getting to the children.
This particular program is continuously going on, and indeed, even last month, Honorable Chairman had the opportunity of dispatching food to the 10 asile counties.
The idea of children having food in school is not a fallacy. It may not be in your specific region, but the other way of going about it is that we have a list that we have given you here of sub-counties. I'm sure this of sub-counties, and in your regions, you can just take a phone call and check with your head teacher in the areas that have been indicated here, and then confirm whether what we are saying is true or not.
The government says it has plans of increasing the number of learners currently under the school feeding program in the country. Sharon Baranga, TV 47.
Now, President William Ruto early Tuesday arrived in South Korea for a bilateral talk with his counterpart, President Yoon Suk Yeol. And Kenya is keen on expanding economic ties with the East Asian nation and exploring areas of cooperation, especially in ICT, education, pharmaceutical, and infrastructure.
Early Tuesday morning, President William Ruto arrived in Seoul, South Korea for bilateral talks with South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol, and as part of an initiative to encourage foreign investors to invest in Kenya. Kenya has been keen on expanding economic ties with the East Asian nation and exploring areas of cooperation, especially in ICT, education, pharmaceutical and infrastructure, a plan that Kenya Kwanza government has been advocating for since it took power. The youth are also set to benefit from the tour, with President William Ruto saying that he intends to create job opportunities for the youth in both countries.
Okay. Hello.
Ruto will be in South Korea for 3 days and will hold several consultative meetings. Lucky Ariano reporting for TV 47.
Following complaints of increased muggings and armed robberies in the city, police officers from different formations of the National Police Service have been keeping vigil in a bid to normalize the situation. Collins Lusweti took a stroll around the Central Business District and filed this very report.
After complaints of rising insecurity in the Central Business District, General Service Unit officers and Rapid Deployment Unit, drawn from Administration Police, were deployed to tackle crime in a number of areas in the city. A cross-check in the city revealed increased police patrol in the city center, with city dwellers noting that the situation has improved.
Tukitembea hapa tunapata security iko mzuri kabisa. Ile story ati wao vijana walikuwa na kupata choche ama kidogo simu shatolewa mbio. Sasa mna security imepewa Kanairo, iko rada safi sana. Hata hizi area sasa hivi watu wanatembea wakiwa comfortable.
We've been able to speak to officer in charge of Police Division Central Police Station, Mr. Raphael Kimilu, who has indicated that they have recorded fewer numbers of criminal cases, mugging and stabbing in the city center. However, he says that criminals could be heading to other regions outside the city center, but promising that security operations will spread across all parts of the city. Boda riders who have been put at the center of criminal activities in the city have also promised to work hand in hand with security officials to tackle the wave of criminal cases within the CBD.
Sisi tumejipanga si kama wana boda kuweka mikakati, kuunda circles, kuunda ma reflectors, kuregister watu ambapo tutakuwa na stages. Mtu kama sio stage fulani afai asongelee hiyo stage. Na akisonga hapo lazima aseme anataka nini, lazima aongee maybe na mkubwa wa hiyo area, waongee aseme anataka nini. Nairobi residents are now calling on police to remain vigilant and enhance a continuous security operation, saying they only swung into action after complaints of increased insecurity cases.
The more security iko tight, everything inakuwa simple. So ndio vijana wanakaa idle, watafute kitu ya kufanya. Security experts are however warning that deployment of GSU and RDE officers may not be a long-term solution to tackling criminal activities in the city. They want a public intelligence approach with a strong partnership between police and members of the public in identifying criminals. Few city residents whom we've been able to speak to say they feel a little bit safe. They can be able to walk around with their phones. They can be able to make communication on their phones as they walk around. They attribute this to increased security operations in the city area. However, they want the security operations to continue to ensure that their safety is guaranteed. Collins Lusweti, TV47, Nairobi.
Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition lawmakers led by National Assembly Minority Leader Opiyo Wandayi have accused IEBC Chairperson Wafula Chebukati and CEO Marjan Hussein of misusing public resources, and as Stanley Nyaringita reports. This comes as Chebukati, together with Commissioners Abdi Gulie and Boya Molu, are set to vacate office in January.
As IEBC Chair Wafula Chebukati prepares to vacate his hot seat for the next occupant by January 2023, Azimio One Kenya allied MPs are making his exit hectic. Chebukati, together with the Commission's CEO Hussein Marjan and Commissioners Abdi Gulie and Boya Molu, have been put on the spot over allegedly misusing taxpayers' money on foreign trips for over 3 weeks to South Africa, USA, Malaysia, Dubai and Angola.
The three commissioners and the CEO must know. A criminal act never elapses in law. It doesn't matter how long it will be. But the long hand of justice will soon catch up with these people.
We'll recall that we have time and again called upon Chebukati, Boya Molu and Abdi Gulie to proceed on terminal leave, pending their final retirement. Our pleas have fallen on deaf ears.
Other sticky issues that Azimio MPs want the electoral body to answer is on the awarding of a tender to a Greek firm, Lycos, for the printing of ballot papers for by-elections scheduled for December 8th and January 5th. According to Wandayi, this goes against the IEBC Procurement Act on by-elections, which seeks to have the ballots printed locally.
There is some very tight relationship between the current IEBC, or at least the ruling elite within the IEBC, and the Greek company.
The MPs also want the outgoing commissioners to begin a process of handing over their office in line with the IEBC Act. All decisions which are made without the participation of the plenary be rescinded and an independent audit be undertaken to establish expenditures incurred after the August elections. The legislators also want Marijan to produce the contract between IEBC and Inform Lycos, which includes the duration of the contract and a special committee to be formed to probe the conduct of Chebukati, Marijan, Gulie and Molu to determine the extent of alleged misuse of public resources. At the same time, the Azimio coalition lawmakers have also faulted the move by Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah to sponsor a bill that seeks to change the selection panel for the appointment of the electoral commissioners.
So we think someone is trying to take charge of IEBC the next election, whereby he wants to have 100% control. 100% control in the selection and appointment, because we have not seen a problem in the current method of selection of IEBC commissioners. So in trying to change it is to give advantage to one part of the coalition.
This comes as the 4 dissenting commissioners led by Vice Chair Juliana Cherera await their fate on Thursday as members of the National Assembly listen to the petitions filed against them seeking to remove them from office. If the House deems the petitioners have merit, the President will appoint a tribunal to investigate conduct of the 4 commissioners. Stanley Nyeringita, TV47, Nairobi.
An ouster motion for Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza was Tuesday tabled on the floor of the Meru County Assembly. The Assembly, through the Office of the Clerk, is set to serve the Governor with a copy of the motion and invite the Governor to appear and be heard by the County Assembly. TV47's Moig William with our reports.
A motion tabled by the Gushi West MCA Dennis Kyogora, who doubles up as the minority whip, has set the ball rolling in the bid to impeach Governor Kawira Mwangaza. A move that has gotten massive support from his colleagues, as 68 out of the total 69 MCAs appended their signatures. In the motion that seeks to send Mwangaza home, she has been accused of a number of allegations including nepotism, illegal appointments, unlawful dismissal, and usurpation of the constitutional and statutory functions of the county organs, contempt of court, incitement, bullying, vilification and misleading campaigns against other leaders.
Evidence of the governor's gross violation of Articles 10, 73 and 75 of the Constitution and gross violation of Section 19 of the Public Officer Ethics Act, gross violation of Sections 29 and 34 of the Leadership and Integrity Act, and gross misconduct is set in the video saved as Annex 13, the flash drive presented with this motion.
In the long list of grounds for removal of Meru's that governor, others include forceful entry into the assembly precincts and mobilization of unlawful riots against members of the assembly, violation of public finance management law, and misconduct relating to the nomination of county executive committee members.
We have the appointment of the husband to county offices, roadside appointment of county workers at Mau, roadside appointment of county workers at Nkobo, roadside appointment of county workers at Kianjai, contempt of court, and illegal dismissals.
The Meru County Assembly will also be receiving views from the public, allowing the Meru residents to contribute and air their views on the matter. The motion is in the early stages in the removal of a governor from office. The governor is then given time to defend themselves before the ward reps before they cast a vote on the motion.
Kama sisi wanawake wa Meru umetuaibisha ya kutosha. Sisi tukienda Nairobi, tukienda Mombasa, tunaambiwa huyu anakaa kama Kawira Mwangaza yule wa Baichu. Sisi si wa Kenya tunataka mjue saa hii. Sisi ni wa Meru, tuko na heshima. Sisi si vichwa ngumu, tuko na heshima zetu, tunaheshimu watu wengine, si kama Kawira Mwangaza venye anafanya.
If a motion is supported by at least 2/3 of all members of the County Assembly, the County Assembly Speaker communicates to the Senate Speaker, and within 10 days of receiving the Assembly's communication, the Senate Speaker convenes a sitting to debate the issue and allow the Governor to defend themselves once more. If the motion goes through, the impeached Governor has 14 days to appeal the decision at the High Court for review. Meru County Assembly is expected to debate and vote on the motion on Wednesday after considering a reply from Governor Mwangaza as well as people's views on the motion. Moige William, TV47.
a developing story that we'll be following up on to give you more updates. Now, Kiambu County Assembly Lands and Physical Planning Committee has directed Governor Kimani Wamatangi to halt the construction of all buildings for reinspection after the committee unearthed a lot of irregularities, as Paul Kirubi details.
The Ruiru building that collapsed on Monday brings to 4 the number of buildings that have so far collapsed within Nairobi and Kiambu in recent times. A day after the collapse of the Ruiru building, Kiambu County Assembly Lands and Physical Planning Committee, led by the chairperson Ruth Waithera, visited the scene and called upon Kiambu County Governor Kimani Wamatangi to halt construction of all buildings for inspection after the committee unearthed that many developers bypass approvals act by constructing more stores against the law.
The way forward is, first of all the buildings which are not approved to stock. Then the next thing is we have a Mustang which are going to work and to review which are those documents, which are those buildings that they are going to go on construction.
All the constructions going on in Kiambu County, you halt all of them with immediate effect until at such a given time that we'll be able to identify the buildings that can be able to hold and those ones that cannot be able to hold. Those ones that cannot be able to hold, we are requesting you to bring them down so that we can be able to protect the lives of our innocent Kenyans.
The committee, while visiting the scene, revealed that the engineer had presented a report to the executive before the construction of the building. This indicates that there are some rogue officers within the county who've been dealing with engineers, with the committee proposing punishing the rogue officers and developers by bringing down all buildings that have been built without approvals.
Procedure, they don't even pay for licenses, the approvals. So even the engineer, you heard that the engineer was saying that he wrote a report, the report that went to the executive and nothing was done. So you wonder what is happening. So we need to come together and make one table and make these approvals together.
There is a force that is influencing the decision makings of the county assembly. There's a force that is also influencing the way in which the developers tend to ignore the laws and the regulations that are supposed to be followed by a county assembly.
They have called on the Kiambu County Governor to compensate the families who've been affected by houses that have collapsed and cater for send-off expenses for those who perished and hospital bills for those hospitalized. This comes after the owner of a 5-story building that collapsed in Ruaka Town in Kiambu County on November 17, and 4 officials from the planning department were arraigned at the Kiambu Law Court to face murder charges. The owner of the 5-story building that collapsed in Ruaka, Jennifer Kamau, was apprehended by detectives on Monday while attempting to flee the country at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, JKIA. Paul Kirubi, TV47.
Now, as Kenyans scratch their heads trying to figure out what type of maize is in a ship docked at the Mombasa port, officials from the Kenya Ports Authority have cleared the air on how that can be known. The regulations guide that a report should be issued either by the Kenya Bureau of Standards, who must assess foods entering the country, or the national government itself.
As the GMO debate continues to raise mixed reactions among Kenyans, the Kenya Port Authority is yet to confirm whether or not they have received GMO maize as planned by the government. GMO foods are expected to curb food shortage in the country, this as Kenyans survive the worst drought in 40 years. According to the Kenya Port Authority regulations, import foods entering the country by ship must be assessed by the Kenya Bureau of Standards through testing and metrology. From that, they issue a report on whether the food is genetically modified and whether it meets the standards suitable for human consumption. Reports indicate that the ship that docked yesterday at the Mombasa port did not ship in GMOs as it was assumed, but rather 200,028 bags of maize imported under the World Food Programme. The question of when the GMO maize will arrive in the country will be announced by the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Industry, headed by its Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria. Paul Munio, TV47, Mombasa.
Members of Parliament from maize-producing regions now demand for an immediate cessation of importation of 10 million bags of duty-free maize into the country, given that no official gazette notice has formally and legally been issued. The legislators sought to understand the reasons as to why a ship is already docking in Mombasa port without the laid-down legal procedures in place. Micah Gungu with the details.
The GMO debate has since taken a new twist after trade, industry and cooperative CS Moses Kuria outlined his plan to import 10 million bags of duty-free maize into the country. Members of Parliament from maize-producing regions are now worried that it has never happened before that maize is imported into the country during the harvest season, oblivious of maize production being always the country's first priority.
We also demand the government to open National Cereals and Produce Board and strategic grain reserves and mop up the entire maize harvest of this year before allowing importation of any amount of maize.
Kuria announced that the government will soon allow a 6-month duty-free importation of 10 million bags of GMO and non-GMO maize for food security. Kuria had on Monday said a legal notice for the importation of genetically modified maize by millers was due this week. The projection of the bumper harvest of maize this season is projected to be 42 million bags, despite the high cost of farm inputs.
And what the millers are doing is to misadvise the minister that we have no maize in this country so that they can bring in duty-free maize from countries that we are not sure whether is good maize, whether is GMO.
Wait first, can we pause and allow the farmers to harvest the maize, to sell the maize, to open the National Cereals and Produce Board so that the farmers can take the maize there?
MPs now say there is a deliberate move to continue killing maize farming in the country, as was seen in the previous regime where even the sugar sector and other farming sectors were killed. However, with necessary consultations, the legislators say that they are ready to provide necessary support on the issue of GMO debate in the country.
Kwanza serikali ichukue yale mahindi yote, inunue yale mahindi yote, iweke katika strategic grain reserve, ndio kama haitoshi ndio watafute kununua mahindi nyingine.
The moment we import duty free maize to the country, already we are exerting a volatility in the price of maize, and the government has not provided a mechanism or a recourse as to how we are going to cushion the farmer. This government came into force by promising that we are going to subsidize inputs and not output.
Pokot South MP David Kosing said that they will collect signatures from Wednesday seeking to impeach Kuria if he doesn't change. However, before the state could give legal authority for the importation of maize, a ship carrying tons of maize docked at the Mombasa port.
The path that the minister has taken is very dangerous. Even what they've done right now, we understand the boats are docking. That is illegal. And anyone who will clear that maize to get into the market, we as Parliament will take action. And it's good now that we are in a position to call anyone for him to answer.
And the fact that the ship has already docked is even a very serious issue because the Gazette has not even gone out, which means this thing was planned way before they discussed and told us about this issue.
If he continues this, we will impeach him. We will collect signatures from tomorrow. If he doesn't change, he will be the first cabinet minister under this administration to go home.
Grain farmers now want the government to mop up maize from them and only import in March next year once their products have been sold.
Sahi ukiangalia wakazi wa Trans Nzoia na Uasin Gishu at large, ukiangalia ndo wanavuna na hii mahindi yao iko tayari. Mbona serikali isichukue hii mahindi yetu iweze kununua kwa ile bei nafuu kuliko kuenda kule nje mnaleta mahindi ya bei ghali ambayo mnaita GMO. Mnajaribu kukandamiza hawa ambao wakulima wa mahindi.
Isiolo County leaders have questioned the move by the government to speed up the importation of GMO maize from foreign countries instead of accessing the product from local sources to promote trade and safety of products consumption in the country.
Matamshi ya CS wetu wa trade inaonyesha ya kwamba is not a sensitive leader, is not a responsible leader. Huwezi ambia watu mtazidi kukufa, hata mbeleni mmekuwa mkikufa, sasa kufeni zaidi.
Members of Parliament now want the Trade Ministry to seize the issuance of Gazette notice to allow the importation of 10 million duty-free bags or any other amount of maize into the country. Mike, GOtv 47, Nairobi.
And in the same breath, Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya has hit out at the national government for supplying genetically modified organisms to Kenya instead of empowering farmers to ensure other parts of the country get enough food. Trans Nzoia County is among the counties that are famously known for maize farming, and the region has been affected by the recent government directive.
Maoni yangu ni kwamba tunahitaji utafiti zaidi kuhusu mambo ya GMO. Sisi kama taifa la Kenya tuko na chakula cha kutosha. Kwa mfano Trans Nzoia tuko na chakula kingi sana. Alafu napata sehemu zingine hawana vyakula. Jambo la dharura ni kuhakikisha kwamba sisi kama wale ambao tunalima mahindi kwa mfano na tumevuna mahindi mengi, haya mahindi yatafikiaje wale wenzetu ambao kule Samburu, Turukana, sehemu zingine za Kitui labda ambao hawana chakula. Kukimbilia GMO kwa sababu hatuna chakula, hiyo maneno sikubaliana nayo kabisa. Chakula kinapotea, kinaoza hapa kwetu kwa sababu hakina soko.
Sasa ukiangalia wakazi wa Trans Nzoia na Uasin Gishu at large, ukiangalia ndo wanavuna na hii mahindi yao iko tayari. Mbona serikali isichukue hii mahindi yetu iweze kununua kwa ile bei nafuu kuliko kuenda kule nje mnaleta mahindi ya bei ghali ambayo mnaita GMO? Mnajaribu kukandamiza hawa ambao wakulima wa mahindi, na pia mnajaribu kuonyesha kuwa hii mahindi yao haina maana.
Trans Nzoia, Uasin Gishu na Bungoma tuko na uwezo wa kulisha taifa la Kenya bila hata kuwa na haja ya kuimport mahindi. Ikiwa mkulima ataangaliwa, apewe motisha, akuwe motivated, na motivation tu ni mambo ya subsidy ambayo ya mbolea na kuwa na bei nzuri kwa mahindi ambayo yamevunwa.
As the national examinations are set to kick off early next week, security officials in West Pokot County have put in place strategies to ensure security in this very region, with areas that are the most affected by insecurity and castle rustling being given priority. Addressing the media after a meeting with other security officials, County Police Commander Peter Katam has noted that security has been beefed up in the volatile Pokot Central and Pokot North regions, adding that some schools in those very areas will be allocated more than 2 police officers to man the examination centers. KCSE exams have already kicked off with orals in foreign languages, music and sign language practicals, with KCPE expected to start next Monday.
Security in those challenged areas like Pokot Central, Pokot North, and we have in place enough security to make sure that those exams will go on uninterrupted. Of course, there are schools which will post more than 2 officers per class, just to make sure that security is up to date. So we are ready and prepared, and this is why we are having this meeting today, just to discuss modalities of supervising this exam so that we have it without any incident.
Morans in Marsabit County have vowed to join hands in rooting out cattle raiding, which has resulted in an ending tribal conflicts, violence and killings over the years. This comes a few days after 3 herdsmen lost their lives in Segel location in Marsabit Central after conflicts erupted between the Rendile and Gabra community herders. While speaking at a Kituruni location during a peace meeting, the Morans from Rendile and Samburu communities asserted their commitment to ending cattle raiding in the area. Marsabit Deputy County Commissioner David Saruni detailed how cattle raiding had become lethal and continued to drive a wedge among the neighboring pastoral communities in the region.
Jamii hii imekuwa ikilaumiwa
na pia ikinyoshewa kidole kwa sababu ya wakora ambao wanatoka katika eneo zingine, county zingine kwa mfano, na wanapitia katika corridor hii na kwenda kugonga majirani wale ambao ni wa karibu na jamii ya Warendile. Na leo tumesikia kwa sauti moja wazee na vijana na warani wa kabila wa jamii hii wakisema kwamba sisi kuanzia leo tutachunga eneo letu, tutachunga area yetu.
Hii ni kupata ushirikiano wa hii jamii, pia waweze kuzuia wale wengine ambao wanatoka sehemu za nje kuja kutumika hapa kuiba mifugo pande hii na kuachia pia wao matatizo hapa kati ya wale ambao jamii ambao zinazoishi hapa karibu.
Tumekubali kuchukua mambo ya salama leo kwa moyo mmoja. Isiwe tunadanganyana. Leo tunasema tuache kuiba, jioni tunasikia maneno mengine. Tafadhali naomba jamii yangu tuache hii maneno hii. Hii ni kitu imepitwa na wakati.
Tunapomaliza kampinye tumekuja hapa saa hii. Na watu ya hapa wametufurahisha sana. Wamesema sisi hatuendi kupiga vita. Wamekubali watakaa na salama, wamekubali hawataenda kupigana na mtu yeyote, na wakasema shida yao ni maji, shida yao ni chakula.
Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly Gladys Bose has initiated a public screening of cancer in Uasin Gishu, which will run till December and benefit all the citizens of Uasin Gishu County. The initiative, Gladys Bose singled out some pesticides which give cancer to locals and are still being sold to farmers in Kenya. She vowed to take action on such companies which have been banned globally and are still finding their way to the Kenyan market.
Prevalence of cancer in Kenya has reached levels never seen before. And when each person is diagnosed, they are at stage 4 cancer. By that time, it takes much higher medical intervention that is expensive and painful for the treatment to be done. And sometimes the treatment is not even successful. I think somebody was telling me for every 5 deaths, 4 are caused by cancer now in Kenya. So that is frightening. And we said, how do you help the community? The important thing is early detection of cancer. If you detect it early, it's not a death sentence. It can be cured. Particularly for women, and for breast cancer and cervical cancer are treatable 100%, but only if they are detected early. We have 267 types of pesticides available in Kenya that have been confirmed in worldwide that they cause cancer. Europe has banned them. America has banned them. The United Kingdom has banned them from their market. But yet their law allows for them to manufacture it for export to a country that is stupid enough to buy it, and that is Kenya. Seeking the removal of the board from office. They must go home. They must be fired for reckless endangerment of Kenyan lives. Because they are being bribed, and I can say this on record and they can take me to court, they are being bribed by the agrochemical companies, particularly Bayer and Dow. Dow is American, Bayer is German. Even if you feel no pain at all, come and be checked. And today we have found people who had precancerous cells and they have received treatment here. Just imagine what would have happened to those young people.
All these cases, if we were not here to look at them, they would be quiet in their homes, especially the women who have the precancerous lesions, because precancerous lesion has no signs or symptoms. It does not pain, it does not give any discharge. You enjoy everything, even conceiving a child and giving birth, you will give birth. But the cervix is already having the effect of cancer.
Tumekuwa tukiumia in the community. Tumekuwa tukipata cases ya cancer. Na wanatibu na maneno ya kienyeji siku nyingi sana.
Usiogope kwa sababu ukiogopa alafu hiyo kitu ikushike utakuwa na shida zaidi. Ndio wanikare wakuja si kitu ngumu. Siogope kwa sababu ukiogopa alafu hiyo kitu ikushike utakuwa na shida zaidi. Wanikare wakuja si kitu ngumu. Ukipatikana unayo unatibiwa tu rahisi na unatakaa ukiendelea vizuri kwa maisha yako.
And from that noble cause by the Deputy Speaker, it is now time that we take a short break. The gentlemen that joined me for the very conversation are here already, and so that break will do us justice as we make the necessary adjustments. Don't you go anywhere.
How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands. Every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands. Every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands. Every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands. Every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m.
And welcome back to the broadcast. As earlier mentioned, it's all about the GMO conversation, definitely what is happening at the level of the counties, as of course it is all tough for Kawira Mwangaza, that is in Meru County, and questions linger as to whether these people then can confidently say that they will enjoy the best of devolution in the reign of Kawira Mwangaza with all this hullabaloo that plays out. Just how far have the other, governors gone in terms of serving their people? These are some of the conversations that we'll be having this morning. Also, as we continue to celebrate and appreciate our students who are sitting for their examinations and wishing them nothing but the best. And equally, for those ones that are sports lovers, we definitely know that it is that month of football. And so the world is focused on what is happening in Qatar. And so much happening right here. We'll be looking at all this. Welcome on board once again. The hashtag is Morning Cafe. Cafe at Linda_Alela TV47KE. We interact with you. We sample some of these comments that you'll have dropped us as we get to continue with the broadcast. And so as we get to this very important conversation, it is at this very time that I have the honors of introducing the gentlemen that join us for this very special conversation that perhaps then would be hugely about what is happening in the country, and definitely just looking to see whether then they will agree with what some members of parliament would argue, that it is not necessary, it is not in order for us to import maize at a time when we're expecting harvest, or at a time when we still have farmers with so much in the silos, and this is not being bought in the country. And so the gentleman in studio, Honorable James Gakuya, Member of Parliament of Embakasi North, is with us this morning, as well as Honorable Lote Titus, Member of Parliament of Kacheliba. Shortly, perhaps, we'd be expecting to have the Member of Parliament of Dewa, Honorable Martin Owino, gracing the set. But in the event that he is not here, then we continue rolling the ball. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Karibuni sana. You know, Kenyans are looking at you to see whether you are going to give us that Solomonic aspect as to this conversation of the GMOs, as to this conversation of the maize that was docked in the country. And the conversation is here, of course, backed by, you know, lots of controversy, as well as some of them actually appreciating that perhaps this is the way to go for us to address the question of, you know, food security, or perhaps just to get people having food. And we ask ourselves, is GMO the way to go? Is it a time where we need to have maize imported into the country? And is it genuine when we have some members of parliament arguing that in their very own constituencies, in their very own counties, there is bumper harvest of maize, and therefore as a country we should have perhaps, you know, exhausted this fast to even imagine that we should go the direction of getting 10,000 tons of GM maize, which has already docked in the country. Mheshimiwa Lote.
Thank you and good morning, Kenya. Well, thank you so much for allowing us to be able to discuss this topic on GMO. And I think it is the trending topic now because it touches on people's lives. It touches also on the economies of this country.
Yeah.
I think it is acceptable that a lot of people in Kenya are actually going through anger. People are suffering. But there are also some parts of Kenya where people are harvesting. This is a period where the North Rift, and most particularly Trans Nzoia, Western Gishu, where people harvest maize. This is the harvesting time.
Yeah.
Then it becomes a little bit of a controversy for us to now, at this particular point, say we are importing GMO food before we actually exhaust buying the maize from farmers. I think for me, it is wrong. It is the wrong timing. It is not the right thing for us to do as a country. We need, first of all, to ensure that we build our local production. Because if we do not buy maize from farmers and we import maize, it basically means that we are discouraging farmers from growing maize next year and the years to come. And when we discourage farmers, it basically means that we are killing our production. So for me, I will actually say it is wrong, and very wrong even for the government to think about importing GMO maize, most particularly GMO maize at this time. I will have encouraged the government, first of all, to buy and clear all the maize production that we've got before thinking of importing GMO.
Do we really have plenty? Do we really have bumper? Do we really have these ones that we speak of that could serve the purpose before we think this direction?
Well, I cannot say that we have enough for this country. But I say that we've got farmers that have actually harvested. And we need to encourage them to do more next year and the years to come. If we do not buy from them, then we are killing production in future. So first of all, let us first finish whatever we have. Let's ensure that we are able to clear all those maize, put them in our reserves, and then think about GMO. So it is not bumper harvest. We've never had bumper harvest in this country. That is enough for this country. But we have always discouraged our farmers, because I do not know why every government that sits here, every time farmers are harvesting is the time that they are importing. And most surprisingly, it becomes a little bit of a controversy, because by the time the government is announcing that they're importing maize, it's already docked. So you wonder, when was this ship leaving the countries where the maize were coming from? So for me, it is business For me, it is just taking Kenyans around. It's joking around. It's with Kenyans, because I expect a ship that is transporting tons of maize or whatever products will be in the high seas for probably a month or two.
Right.
Why is it that the minister is announcing today
The next day we have the ship docking?
So for me, I think the government has been having a scheme of killing farming in this country. And if they go this direction, they will definitely kill farming.
And we ask ourselves, just who is the government in this case? Fine, we have seen the CSO for trade also, are leading to this very matter. So the biggest question then would be, when was this planned for? Who was consulted? What government officials had a conversation in relation to this? And why is it that this is, of course, spoken of today, and the next day the ship is here, understanding the ramifications that would come with such a step? Mheshimiwa, is there more than meets the eye?
Thank you, Linda. Allow me to salute the viewers, wherever they were watching us from. Number two, welcome back. You have been
thank you.
Been away for a while.
Thank you.
But coming to the monster today, me, I just want to allude myself on in a very short way that Kenyans, let us not become forgetters of where we are coming from, where we are, and where we're intending to go. In this issue to do with the GMO, it's a matter that has just come up, and the head of the state has just taken a nature on taking admission of these GMO products locally. To me, is a direction which was hurried, taking into consideration that actually this is an issue which has been here before, and Kibaki government did make a stop on this, and I don't think that actually we have done enough research to admit this product locally. One thing is that actually we must assess what we are going to gain and the losses we are going to attain out of admitting these kind of generic productions. First and foremost, let me just say, anything that is the port of Mombasa, let us not first put a clamour on it. Probably that's something that might have arrived there on a donation kind of hand. If that is the case, you can't stop any donor from donating such kind of food to any needy families. And to me, that's a good way if it is a donation. But if this money has been reported by the government, with the government instructions and knowledge.
You are part and parcel of the government, I'd want to assume.
No, let us agree, Linda, that we have a Minister for Agriculture.
Yes.
And also we have a committee which deals with issues to do with agriculture, which is the Committee for Agriculture. And I have not heard any single pronouncement from the Minister for Agriculture. I have heard from Moses, who just take mantle of a complete different ministry, because the ministry for Moses is pure trade. Trade, you cannot tell me that actually Moses is the one who can take stock of what we have in our silos, in our maybe harvest, last year harvest, because those assessments has to be done before we embark to know what is the deficit out of what we have and what can we be able to import. And if we have to import, must we import this GMO? Is this a solution? My take on this is that I can only be in support of whatever is docking in Mombasa, if that is a donor commodity. But if it is anything to do with an assignment of the Ministry for Agriculture in conjunction with the Minister for Trade, then there's a big question mark.
But just what is the problem here? Is it the safety of this maize? Is it the fact that then it discourages our farmers and we've not even consumed what it is that we have? Or is it the fact that it could have been bought by monies, of course, from the taxpayer's pocket? And that if it is a question of safety, and we say that this is donation, then do we just sit pretty and say, fine, well, it is donated maize and therefore we really need not to cause an alarm?
So that's a party I think donation can be able to assist our animals and so on.
Okay.
So, and you cannot force anybody to consume. Yeah? But if it's taxpayers' money, the taxpayers' money have to get the value of the money.
Is Mheshimiwa saying something that we do not know? Perhaps this was for donation.
I think a government needs to be an open government.
Yes.
Because if a government cannot tell us from the word go that this is a donation, then the government is not a proper government to be in place. Because every donation needs to be declared. There is a reason why you need to declare donations. Even at the government, when you're doing a government official duty and there is a donation to you or a gift to you, you're supposed to declare it. The reason why you need to declare it so that you do not shroud it in controversy as to whether government money has been used to it or not. So for the fact that there is a dock ship in Mombasa that has not declared whether that is a donation or a product that has been used government money to buy, then there is something wrong. So for me, from the onset, it is very wrong for us to have ship that has docked in Mombasa and we are not sure as to whether this is a ship that is bringing a donation or this is a ship that government money has been used. The second one will even be worse, because if government money has been used and the minister comes at the very tail end to tell us that you will die anyway, but let us add into a product that will kill you. We are bringing in GMOs. So for me, I think the minister was saying something, despite the fact that he's Minister of Trade.
Yeah.
He is speaking on behalf of government, because as a minister, in his official capacity, a minister actually eludes government statements. And so that is a government statement.
Right.
And irrespective of how he said it, the government is speaking. And the reason why Kenyans are up in arms, Kenyans are hungry. I am hungry because the minister cannot tell us that when you're in Kenya, you are actually a candidate of death. It basically tells others, despite the fact that he's a minister in charge of trade, he's discouraging people from coming to Kenya, because if you come to Kenya, you're actually registering to be a candidate of death. I don't think a minister is supposed to take that way.
Right.
But then to add it to say, we are adding one condition, we are adding another product that will kill you. We are adding GMO. GMO, for your information, is a very bad product.
Why bad?
It is bad product because all the countries in Europe, and these are the countries that are producing GMOs, all the countries in Europe, apart from Spain, all of them have banned GMO. Why? It's because the governments in Europe are taking care of their citizens. The GMO product has been manufactured by a company called Monsanto in the US. This, if you look, Google, this is the most hated company in the US. People hated it because it was producing these products, and these products were mainly produced to feed animals, not to feed human beings.
Right.
And then they have been giving it out as donation to the third world countries. And I believe all the donations, sometimes you've seen donations coming from the US to Kenya, people have eaten GMOs. But they were giving, in the US, it's actually for animal feeds. Here is a donation for food. We are given to take it. Why is it that this was the most hated company in the US? It is because it was producing products that are harmful to the human health. And so GMOs are actually a banned product. Bayer, now, because Monsanto, when Monsanto was hated in the US, they went and linked with a German company called Bayer. Bayer company, for your information, is the company that was producing the gas that exterminated Jewish. And so it was an Hitler kind of a company. So if they were able to exterminate Jews using the gas during the Holocaust, why is it not that they are probably trying to exterminate people? In fact, if you read up the history of GMO, you hear that the white people, the ones that are now trying to import or export GMO to Africa, they're trying to control our population because they are thinking that we are overgrowing and therefore the world will be poorer because of many mouths to feed. Why are they not consuming GMO? If GMO is good, let the Americans consume GMO. Let the European countries that are producing it consume GMO before bringing it to us. Because research has been found that GMOs are harmful, GMOs cause cancer, GMOs sterilizes. Because they were not created by God, they are genetically engineered. So it also genetically engineer your body. Once you take this food, it starts engineering you, and before you know it, you are a different human being from who you are. So it is wrong, it is bad for us to take it. It is very wrong for government to think that is the solution. Why? We actually are Kalula, the irrigation scheme, the Galana. Why can the government not think about those solutions? Why can they not continue doing what they failed in the last government? To ensure that we get food instead of bringing foods, instead of bringing poison, instead of bringing genetically modified food that's going to kill Kenyans, that is going to bring cancer. Because at the end of it all, it might be cheap for us to eat today. But then, the 1,000 that you will have used to buy food, you will use 20,000 to treat yourself in hospital. So it is even expensive to take GMO food at the end of it all.
Mheshimiwa, your government has, of course, alluded to this and said...
My government is equal to your government.
Yes, it is our government. But then again, we're talking about Kenya Kwanza in this very case, because most of the times when I have these arguments, you realize that the other side will speak otherwise. And the Kenya Kwanza governments, the members of this very government, would always want to come out to justify the reason why we would have some of these imports for seed. And that is the biggest worry, perhaps many have said, without us focusing on the research that has been conducted with other countries, the fact that other countries have banned this in our very own special capacity. And as the World Health Organization would say, then this would be favorable depending on, certain genetics, depending on certain regions and all that. And so in our very own capacity, do you suppose that as a country, we are capable of doing research, conducting, scientific research as to understanding the dangers of this, so that when we're making a decision, we do not make it based on what country A has done and what country B has done. And when I'm making a decision to decide that yes, we lift the ban, then we're confident this is not going to cause more ramifications and troubles to the people of Kenya.
The answer is yes. We have capacity. We have capacity to do the research. And I just want to say that, in fact, that's why we have those sectors of research. We have research units within agriculture. We have research units within healthcare, and all these units are there to provide service to the common monarch. And I believe that these units are purposely there, instituted or constituted to make sure that they give us proper advice towards a certain direction. In this particular case of the used to do with the GMO, I think this is a matter that has been researched, and since now it's over 10 years since Kibaki stopped it. I think this has been quite enough time for us to have an answer going forward. Are we going to make it admissible or not? One, we are still in what we call fear situation, that we have been discouraged, that this is a product that you can be able to put in our farms, and you cannot be able to replant it again. You cannot use the same seedling to replant. Then you have to import those seedlings forever. And therefore you are creating jobs for others who at least replicate or which modify these things. Number two is that particular farm, once it engages with this particular product, you cannot be able to return the original natural crops within your farm any longer. And therefore that's a big destruction, and it's a big fear. Number two, if we come even to the others, the sector of consumption, I believe if this product is good for animals and not good for human consumption, then my big question is, who consumes the products of these animals? Is it not a human being?
It is.
Because if the cow can be able to consume this, and then I will get milk out of it, it does not have either indirect or direct kind of effect if this particular animal has been fed with this particular product. Then we need to have a clear cut on this, get well-researched material and answers, so that we can know, yes, if this material can be consumed by animals, then there is no likelihood of any effect when you get the product of that particular animal as a human being. Those are areas of concern, and I think our teams of research has a duty to give us a clear direction. We cannot keep on depending with foreign answers. We have to do our domestic research and get our own answers. Number 3, I want to root myself in one area, that this is an animal which is already here, and probably we are in rush because of the serious indication of hunger that was there before the rain. Now there is an indication that things can be able to cool. But assume this particular sheep was ordered that before the rain, and that's why it's already here. This particular maybe commodity was purposely being brought here to take to just to address that gap that was there, and that serious gap. Because at some point you may say, yes, if we cannot be able to feed our people, but there is this commodity which at least has an element of, yes, some danger, but at least it's been consumed elsewhere. Kama ile wakati wa Moi ilikuwa inaitwa gadhirikari.
Yes.
So those commodities, yes, then you can allow for just a short term to make a solution of that short term.
That is the biggest problem.
Yes.
And perhaps I'll ask you, Mheshimiwa, you say that there are countries that have banned this. Equally, there are countries, like Mheshimiwa would allude to, that are consuming this, that are using GMO. Would it not be wise, and acknowledging the fact that Kenyans are dying of hunger today, that we could perhaps allow these foods onto our shelves, but as well enhance consumer protection? I mean, look into the bodies like KEBS to make sure that, well, there's so much that it's looked into it. And in terms of what they say, bring it to the market, label it. Those ones who would wish to consume, let them proceed and consume. Those ones that would wish not to, then proceed to consume the organic, which is also a plus for our very own farmers who would be in the world of organic.
Well, I think, first of all, there is a thing that I wanted us to speak about. In 2012, after Kenyans have really consulted during Kibaki's time, Bek Mugon, then who was the Minister of Health, rejected GMO, and Kenyans were happy because of that. The sitting president is in record after actually vehemently rejecting GMO when he was a minister. There is nothing that has changed, and he would say that we've got the capacity as a country to do research. Since that time, that is 10 years ago, there is no single document that has come from any researcher that actually talks about GMO. So Kenyans talked about GMO then, and there is no research that was done. So for me, I do not believe, I do not trust, I do not have the ability to believe in any research that is done by researchers. Because one, we are a country that speaks about things very emotionally when they are there. Like today we are speaking about GMO. After that, we close that chapter, and we'll only revisit it when it comes back again. So for me, I do not think as a country we are ready. I do not think we as a country we are serious. I do not think as a country we are taking care of ourselves. One, I would wish to know from you, because you're telling me that there are countries that are using GMOs. I don't know which countries are those. I've told you, it is only in Spain, the whole of Europe.
Yes.
And these are countries that have got the highest technology. These are countries that have the highest research capacity. These are countries that are funding their institution to actually do the best for their citizens.
And that means you have highlighted one of the countries. So that means
is only one country called Spain. And I'll tell you the reason why they're using it. But let me just come back. Spain does not even produce GMO. Bayer is a German company that is now linked with Monsanto. Bayer is a reputable company globally. But Monsanto had to go and cling to Bayer so that they get the good name. After their name was destroyed in the US, Germans that have Bayer as their companies do not consume even a single grain of GMO. So for me, let us not say that we have capacity to do our research. Let us just look at what others are doing. Why are they rejecting it? Do we think that our research capacity is better than all the European countries combined? It is not, certainly. It is not. And so let us just accept that this is a bad product, is a product that we cannot import to this country, is a product that is going to kill Kenyans. Because, one, GMO, once it lands into this country, once it lands, I accept what you're saying, that you can put these products on the shelf and people can make a choice. And that is correct. I agree. People can make a choice. You make a choice whether you want to take poison or not. And in any case, when the poison starts eating you up, you will have actually been the one that made a choice. But to force people to take products because they're donations, we cannot take poison because they're donations.
Do we go with that narrative that these ones are donations?
I do not want to go with that narrative because the government has not said it. You know, here we are speculating, and it is wrong for citizens, it's wrong for politicians, for us to start speculating on something that the government needs to come open and tell us these are donations. The fact that the Minister of Trade told us about the importation of GMOs and they already docked basically means there are things that are going below the table that we do not understand. These things were planned, these things were organized, these things were shipped. So the minister was only told, tell the people that the products are already there. And it is something that is so wrong to have a government that can do that to the people. So for me, I'll think and I'll believe that the government needs to look at other ways of feeding its people. We cannot say because we are dying, let us die anyway quickly because of GMOs, or let us put ourselves into a crisis, health crisis, because all of us are going, a lot of people that consume GMO will actually be infected with cancer. Why? If you look at, for example, the kind of, they say the GMO products, when they're growing, they take care of the weeds. But there are weeds that cannot be done away with the GMO. So they import products such as what we call the farmers are using now. I've just seen here you are actually highlighting issues to deal with cancer in Uasin Gishu.
Yeah.
Some of the cancerous products that are used are this thing called the Roundup. The Roundup is a product that is used to control weeds. And those are the products that are coming with the GMO because they want to control the weeds completely. And that basically means in 2, 3, 4 years after GMO products are introduced into our farms, a lot of people are going to suffer from cancer. Because for one, the Europeans that are bringing these products don't live here. They will not be affected by the effects of producing GMO in this country. The people that are going to be affected are you and me because we are here. We will actually interact with the water that has run through the farms that have gone through these products to control the pest. And before we know it, we have consumed it. And a lot of people start going to the hospital to look for medication.
Realistically,
for you to be treated for cancer, you will better not eat GMO. You better not even come close to a GMO product. You better die of your anger than dying slowly, very expensively with cancer.
Production is high on these very products that you speak of, in as much as even those countries that are producing, perhaps are not consuming, have banned the consumption of the very same products. But for them to be in circulation is a clear indication that they are in use, whether for animals or whether for human beings and all that. And therefore, well, notable countries can be highlighted, can be picked to say that they're the very same ones that actually are growing, say, genetically modified maize. And we're talking about GMOs. And maybe there's then this balance that as a global fraternity we need to come to and accept that in the shelves we will always find GMO food, and at the same time we need to try our level best to make sure that we protect the organic side such that there's going to be that decision. And sometimes someone asks, are we confident that in our very own shelves today we do not have that?
Well, I don't know, you all say it, but sometimes I read the Bible, I'm a reader of the Bible. That says that in ignorance, you're not judged by God if you are ignorant of something. But if you are aware of that, then you're judged. So if you're eating GMO, you're consuming GMO now without knowledge, I think even your system will not judge you. But immediately you become conscious that you're taking GMO products, that starts to follow you. That starts to consciously affect you. And before you know it, it actually can harm you.
Right.
I wish to say this. You're saying that GMOs are in circulation. There are countries that have rejected. The reason why we actually now see GMOs being introduced to the third world countries because they want it to be in circulation. Probably where the GMOs were produced, nobody now is taking it. So they're looking for markets. And where is the market? They're looking for markets here in Africa. They're looking for markets in Kenya. We have 50 million Kenyans that now need to be introduced. So when you're saying it is in circulation because we've got countries, we've got governments like ours that might accept GMO to be there. And before you know it, we can just say it is in circulation, and so because it is in circulation in other countries, we also accept it. We cannot accept anything wrong as much as it is in circulation elsewhere. I do not know why Bill Gates came here. I don't want to speculate. But sometimes these people come because of their business interest.
People have already speculated and concluded, yes.
And they come because of their business interest. Probably they're coming to see how people are affected with anger in Machakos and Kitui so that they can now introduce GMO and they make money out of it. So at the end of it all, let us not just be very happy because we've seen a philanthropist like him coming. I'm not saying it's bad, but sometimes let us be very keen in what these people are doing. Probably GMOs are being introduced here with a bit of incentive for those that are actually going to sign the documents, but with a lot of disincentive for the Kenyans that are going to
and that would be quite unfortunate. The Right Honorable Raila Odinga, in his quite lengthy statement, alludes to this. Mheshimiwa Gakuya, he says, of course, the science on GMO foods is extremely controversial, which is something that we have witnessed across the global fraternity. And perhaps it would be worth for Kenyans to have a conversation revolving around this. With this knowledge that is in existence, that, you know, in relation to what the global fraternity sees this to be, maybe it's almost certain that we're also going to come to a conclusion that, well, this is not the way to go. Do we need to have a conversation? Do we need to trigger, you know, public participation as to this very matter? Or we are at a stage where it's extremely late, if at all we are to imagine that maybe these leaders that we have in the countries are having negotiations with those ones that are abroad for purposes of their own interests? Honorable Gakuya.
Linda, the answer is very short. That my colleague is a member in the legislature. And one of the main aspect or main purpose of a member being a member is to legislate and make sure that the country has the best policies. In this case of GMO, it's a matter that can be addressed. A bill can be brought in the House. A bill can be able to need all these uncleared aspects. Any fear, so at the end of the day, at least we have a bill that will protect, and then it becomes a law. These we will pay to go all the stages required to by a registration proposal. And to me, it's not cast on a stone that the president did pronounce on this. And probably the reason why he alluded himself on that particular narrative is the position the country was in. And there was a dire need for taking concern of those hunger areas. And at least at that particular point, you could be able to go to any option as much as what you are bringing up is not poison to your people. Scientifically, we have some clues because I have no assumed kind of research. But I still need to say that actually our domestic researchers are very well educated and they can give us good answers. Only what they lacks funding. And we find that in fact most of the time these particular units are not considered during the budget cycle. And if you don't fund these particular agencies, how do you accept them to give at any productive result at the end of the day? Anybody who is there will be sitting there idle with doing zero because there's no committal, and therefore government has to take this serious importance of making use of our local researchers, enable them to do their part so that they can be able to give us answers. Because 10 years window has been quite a big one that today we could not be in this particular quagmire that we are in. We could be having answers straight away that yes, we have already analyzed and we have just, this is the report, that this is doable or this is not. This is totally opposed to human consumption or it can be able to do. And number two is that we have not exhausted all our options before we admit this kind of genetic modified foods. And one, I would say, we still have issues to do with the lands like Kolala he has just alluded to. Can we change our way of doing things? Instead of doing us on our own, why can't we look for partnership? We bring a partner whom at least our Kenya government will be able to provide land for this particular duty and allow the partner to make the growth of the local production. And then at the end of the day, either you share with him equitably or with the measures that can be provided. That way we can achieve our goal. But we have just witnessed that, leader, we are the biggest enemies of our own. Yes, we have seen, we have institutions that we are running ourselves, like Kenya Airways, it is nose diving, when the air freight is doing very well. But you cannot see the result at the end of the day. We have seen areas like Intercon Hotel, which has been doing well, but only because that actually their government shares in, it cannot survive. And many others that has gone down. We have seen in areas of sugarcane. We have issues with our local public factories. But if you go to just neighbor, they have private sugarcane factories, which are doing very well. Is there any miracle? That means we have a problem, and we have a problem of our own. And we must need this if we have to succeed. And this is the management. And let me tell you, the management does not take care of the interests of our people, the interests of our nation. And we have a problem in that. I don't know how we are going to cure it, but we must change our attitude if we have to win these battles. Because wherever you get there, leader, instead of thinking how you can be able to propel and make things thrive, you just start to think of your own, how you can be able to spawn everything and enrich yourself. That's the only answer we can only get tomorrow. And that's why we are failing totally. But I don't know whether we are going just to rely with what we call international bodies to come in, handle issues that we can be able to handle here domestically, or what are we going to do? We have people who are learned people with a lot of experience, but actually they are not assessing that. When you you tax them to those capacities, they become the biggest failure of our domestic plants. I don't know what we are going to do, but there has to be a solution. This matter that is in front of us is not a big issue. And I can tell you for sure, if we can be able to think out of the box, we need to come with an answer. Yes, we have enough areas to grow maize. What do? Areas like where the Tana River actually thrives is an area that we can embark on. But because we cannot be able to do it within ourselves or within a regiment of our own management, why don't we lease it out? Or why can't we have a partner whom can make use of it, plant enough food, and then at the end of the day we share it, and that foods are not going to be imported out, they are going to be used domestically.
Those ones are good.
Those are ways we can be able to iron and come out of this, because the solution is not to allow these genetic modified food here.
Are we in such
not forgetting, it is already in our market. We have chickens in our hotels that we have taken more than 10 years ago, and these chickens are genetic modified. So we cannot cheat ourselves that we are not consuming.
So is it hypocritical to argue that maybe we should not have this, with...
I can tell you, go to our stocks, even to what we call Wamabogas, you realize those products are there. And those products are not imported. They have been grown here. Yes.
Well, perhaps we need to get in depth or to the depth of that to understand whether indeed these ones are in existence here. But even before we get to that level, Mheshimiwa here says that maybe we should adopt this, short-term purposes to address the matter that is at hand. And looking at the UDA, Kenya Kwanza manifesto that I have here, they really articulated how best they intend to transform the agricultural sector to address the question of food security in the country. Will this be going against what it is that they promised the people of Kenya? And can we have the discipline to say, on short-term basis, to address the matter at hand, to make sure that we save the lives of the people of Kenya? Can we have the discipline really to say that this will just be adopted for a short-term?
I'm very happy that you've mentioned a manifesto for the Kenya Kwanza. I want you to read through that manifesto and get a place where they have said, at the inset where we will have anger, we might import GMO. Just read and get me. If there is a place that looks like that, then I would be vindicated. But if they have not said it in their manifesto, it basically means it is very hypocritical for them to tell Kenyans we're going to do this in agriculture. And now they're saying we are not going to do that. We're going to have a short-term ways of solving the anger problem. So if they have not, and I'll let Kenyans have got this.
An emergency has to be treated as an emergency.
Kenyans have always gone through this spate. It's not the first time that we've gone through a spate of anger, and the reason why they have said we want to address agriculture. And if you look at the preambles to that section of that manifesto, it actually says because we want to address the food security.
Right.
Addressing food security basically means we are also dealing with the issues to deal with anger. And so it is not a real emergency as such. It is something that was foreseen, so that when they are doing this manifesto, they are trying to fight anger. And I think there is a time when the president said he will ensure that no Kenyan dies because of anger. And so they knew it when they were doing the manifesto. And so they should have actually looked at it. They should have actually told us that at the time when we will have anger, we will import GMO. They didn't say that. They're not going to say it, but they're going to import GMO. And for me, I think it is very wrong for the government to be insincere to this level, to bring poison in the name of GMO. I want just to say something about what my colleague has said. The chicken products, or whatever products that we eat, GMO is genetically modified. Is it pro animals or grains?
Grains.
It is grains. So if we have eaten chicken,
that is
something else. It's not GMO.
Okay.
We're talking about grains that are going to be grown, and most of these grains are actually manufactured by a company called Monsanto Bayer. And so that is what we are talking about. So if people have eaten this thing, because I actually said earlier, we've gotten donations from the US previously, and these donations that were supposed to be used to feed livestock in the US were finally brought to us. We've eaten GMOs, but without our knowledge. And I said, God will not judge us, our bodies will not judge us, our conscience will not judge us for things we didn't know. But immediately we start knowing that we're consuming GMOs, I think even our systems will start acting to judge us for actually consciously taking GMOs. For me, GMOs will always remain wrong. GMOs is not the solution to our food problem. Our food problems, we've got enough land, we've got enough water. Let us try to grow our food. Let us not bury our heads into the sand, believing that because others have rejected, our bodies are supernatural, that if we take that GMO, we are going to be going to be affected. We are going to be affected. We are human beings like them. There is a reason why they have rejected it. We do not want to become the net importers of drugs and medicine to cure cancer. It is more costly to do that. Let us produce our food. Let us teach our people how to produce food. Let us invest more in agriculture. Let us invest more in the environment. Let us invest more in our forests so that we have more water. And let people produce their food. This country is able to produce its own food. We are only killing our food production. We have killed our sugar. Sugar is dead. It's not because we do not have land. We got land. We used to produce a lot of sugar. But now we are importing sugar. Not because our farms cannot produce. It is because of our appetite for money. And so we kill our local industries. We import cheap sugar so that in the middle, because we are middlemen, we make money. Now we are now trying to kill maize. We are killing every product, not because we cannot do it. We are killing it because I am having the signature. I can do it and benefit myself and family.
There's a very delicate balance, Mheshimiwa, on that. Perhaps sometimes it's always using the signature, but it's in the best interest, I am thinking, of any leader that gets into power to have a good report, for the people to appreciate what it is that they have done. And it's common that you find leaders will always try to get short-term solutions to matters because they know, well, in the next 10, 20 years, when now the effects of GMO are being felt, of this very seed are being felt on our grounds, I will not be president then. And therefore, if I can import this and make sure that I deal with the question of, food security as at now, I really do not care about who's going to come in next and how we're going to create this balance. How do we get leaders that are not selfish to that level to say that, let me solve this here, knowing very well that later on in life, then it comes with lots of repercussions. But after all, I will not be the person who's in the mantle or who is at the mantle.
Well, I think I said it in the studio one time when I was here, and I said our politics, our governance is a product of our politics, is a product of the Kenyan citizens, because they are elect leaders. We have Kibaki, and I think so far, out of the five presidents that we've had as a country, so far, well, I cannot say anything about Dr. Ruto, because he's just come in 3 months. For the 4 presidents that have gone, so far people speak very well about Kibaki. Everybody, I don't think there is anybody, including the deputy president now, during his inauguration, he talked about Kibaki. Everybody speaks about Kibaki with a lot of nostalgia. Kibaki, during his time as president, in 2013, Beth Mugo, the Minister of Health, rejected GMO. So it is not rocket science. So we can get leaders who can stand for their people, like Kibaki did. He was there when people were sick. He was there when the economies were down. He was there when reforms were needed. All the good things we're seeing, Kibaki did them. And so we've got leaders that can stand and say, for my people, this is what I'm going to do. We got a new constitution. Kibaki brought it. It is during his time. It is during his time that GMO was rejected. And I believe Dr. Ruto, if he wants to go into good records and be spoken about good as the way Kibaki was spoken about, he needs to say no to GMO. In fact, I expect him to reprimand openly his minister, to tell his minister that is not how to speak in public, Because at the end of it all boils back to him. He's the appointing authority. He appoints somebody who says, in Kenya, you are a candidate of death. Let me tell you, immediately we import GMO. We have been talking about our economy growing because of tourism. Tourists will not come here. If they are rejecting GMO in Europe, they are coming to Africa, to Kenya to take GMO. They will not. And so our industry will tumble, our jobs will clear, our local production, our farms will all be done. And so basically meaning we are going to be a slave of a company that lives in Europe that does not consume that product. We are always going to export our monies to Europe, to Bayer, to America, to Monsanto, and at the end of it all, our economies will tumble. Let us reject GMO and let us grow our food. Let us try to see the best way we can. I think, like you said, Kenyans are very bright people. If Kenyans are resourced, if Kenyans are actually given the capacity, they can produce their food. The only thing is we put a lot of money into Ganana Gulalu and we cannot see what is coming out of it, and yet money has got disappeared in there, and nobody even up to now have been apprehended for that. So let us not get quick solutions like we're trying to do now. Let us try to look for serious long-term solutions for this country, and this country is ours, and there's nobody that is supposed to change the destiny of this country apart from ourselves. If you want to go GMO, let us go GMO and disappear as a country. If you want to say no to GMO, let us be among the countries that have said no to GMO. Let us join the first world in saying no to the GMOs, because the countries that are consuming GMOs are not first world. Let us go there.
All right, can gene editing help farmers satisfy the rising demand for food? Well, certainly a conversation that we're having right here. And we hope to see just how best as a people we can adapt and adjust to that, if at all that is the direction to go.
But Linda, I can affirm to you that just move to our green groceries.
Yes.
These products are already in the market. You'll find oranges, you'll find vitungu sumu.
There's always this big difference between these two bananas. You know them. Those ones that are
the big question is, if really actually we rejected the GMO, who is doing this provision to make sure these products are not in our shops?
Of course, that is the failure of government. Because if GMOs are here and Kenyans are not aware, what is the work of KEBS, for example? What is their work? It basically means it has failed. And if KEBS fail, it is an arm of government that has failed. If we've got GMO now and Kenyans are not aware, then the government is supposed to account for it.
Well put. This government is just coming in. Maybe Mheshimiwa, we might not hit them so hard. People are working.
And for sure, we must also note that, in fact, yes, it may be a failure of the government, but it has taken roots and it has not started yesterday. Because there's no way that actually you can tell me that actually a grower for this vitungu sumu, it will take 2 months to have a result at the end of the day. It seems it's a business that has been there, but it has been there silently.
And I mean, it is evident with the high cases of cancer that we also have in the country, and that we cannot overlook.
So in this particular case, I think it's a matter that's required to be addressed, and also well taken to the public participation, so people can be given awareness, and then we can agree as a nation, yes, this is a direction we are going to take, or is not. Because at this point in time, we are totally confused, because there are those who are now farming, and in large farming, of this product, and are just making themselves what I can say, maybe earning at the end of the day. Is it illegal or is it illegal? If it is illegal, then we have to come to a point and say this has to stop, and we have to take measures. If you have been caught with these products, then note that you have been caught with these particular products illegally, and therefore there is what we call penalties out of this. Failure to this, we just leave it that way, just commute it that way, still injury under the carpet. Yes, because Kenyans have not that capacity even to be able to distinguish which product is GMO and which is the natural one.
And I think
it is the work of government to actually do that, to protect its people and tell these people that this is GMO and also ban it from the market. So if the products are already there, the failure is not on the Kenyans.
Right.
Failure is on government.
On government. All right, let's talk about the 13th Parliament. And there's a person who's watching here. says, Linda, tell the members of parliament that, we appreciate the few that, spoke about the coming in or the docking of this maize, the genetically modified maize in the country yesterday. The fact that even those ones that are allied to the government could speak against this is commendable, and perhaps, some tenets dictate that we could trust the 13th parliament to allude or to speak of the interests of the people. United against the GMO or against genetically modified maize that landed into the country?
Well, I think if you actually listen to the spirit of parliament yesterday, yes, including my brother here, is a Kenya Kwanza person, and I appreciate. But he's not saying we need to bring in GMO. He's actually trying to say government is doing good, but GMO is not very good. So I think all of us, the 13th parliament, is saying no to GMO. I think we need to protect Kenyans.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we need also to take consideration of that actually. The product to feed our animals are becoming too high. And you just realize that our neighbors here are producing, and we're able to just import direct here and arrives here in a very cheap way. So where are we going wrong? We need also to get to understand, yes, is this GMO totally out of order, that even though it is being consumed by our animals, then at the end of the day, the outcome or the products that actually we can be able to harvest from these animals are effective to our lives. This is an issue we need to know, because if this maize can be able to arrive here at a level of 2,000 shillings per bag, then to me, it can be converted to make cheap of our domestic animals easier, and it can be used on that way. And we can agree and we can tabulate laws which can protect that these are purely not for human consumption, but these are purely for animals, and that can work. But we cannot just demonize it in totality, that actually, because elsewhere it is being demonized, that we must demonize it here. Can we get to research and be told, is it good for animal consumption? And could these animals, at the end of the day, it give any effect after maybe their product being consumed by human being? Yes, and those areas can assist us in terms of making, also reducing the cost of our inputs in terms of foods that actually we offer to our animals.
Well, they say in Swahili that lisemwalo lipo kama halipo laja, and in low tones, if not in high tones, we have heard conversations of the fact that the current government, or better yet, the president, has this desire to get to, just speak to the people of parliament or the members of parliament, even those ones that are not allied to his coalition, to get them shifting gears a bit, starting with the independent candidates. That was witnessed, and now that we had the 90 days elapsing as to whether we would see some, evidently shifting from their parties to this other side. Perhaps not much of that played out. Do you suppose there is a possibility that the current president then is capable of getting absolute control, or at least quite a high margin of control at the level of parliament? And of what interest would that be? Is that cause for alarm?
Well, I think every president world over will want to have that control. And so it is not wrong for Daktari and the Kenya Kwanza government to try to get that control. It is desirable for every politician to get that control. So it is not, we cannot demonize it. It only calls on the opposition or the minority, because the opposition is the term that has been overtaken by events. It calls on the minority to take their stand and also take their belief. Because for you to say, I'm supporting Azimio, for example, or I'm supporting Kenya Kwanza, there are some beliefs that you've got. There are some tenets that you've got. Yeah, there are some drive that you've got there. But if we find that people are shifting, it basically means that we are all the same. It's only that we found ourselves in different ships. But if you go to developed economies, we've got parties, and people believe in parties. They believe in parties more than individuals. I think we have not reached that level. So for me, I will not demonize the Kenya Kwanza government, because they're trying their best. That is what they're supposed to do. And then I'll just say probably the minority side of parliament or government is not doing their bit because
and truly the whole idea is not to demonize, because we understand how important it would be for him to, you know, have a parliament that is largely in support of him. But then again, looking at the fact that we are at that level where the constitution speaks of a majority and minority as opposed to, you know, diehard opposition spaces therein, are you not worried that some of these matters that perhaps, you know, would get where the government is going against what should be done, then we might not have so much so of dissenting voices that would bring sanity in such cases? Remember the controversial VAT conversation, and how much we're almost, you know, seeing, you know, like at some point in time, the speaker speaks and he says, those ones with a contrary opinion say nay, and they say nay, and before you know it, he says the ayes have it. And Kenyans are a little bit worried that if we have, you know, a parliament that is captured by the executive, then perhaps we might not get much of development and, you know, what would be good for the people.
Well, I think I'll just need to inform Kenyans that in Parliament, there's an ad hoc committee on what we call the state capture.
Mm-hmm.
There's a committee, an ad hoc committee that has been formed to study all the places and the spaces where state capture can occur, or the state captures occurred. And so I think, and if you look at the committee members, they are actually drawn from all sides of government. And so I strongly believe it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter where we stand. I think Kenyans, where the interests of Kenyans are, people will speak. We've seen that yesterday. People speaking vehemently against GMO, irrespective of where they're coming from. So it does not matter whether you're in government or not. When matters are such of importance that it affects every Kenyan, I think members of parliament will not look at their coalitions.
We learn from our very own mistakes. Do you think that the previous government has had some tenets of, you know, that aspect of state capture based on what the Kenya Kwanza side has been saying?
Yes, they did.
And so this committee and this act of parliament really did not...
I think we learn all the time. Last time, the state capture was there. I think Parliament was not proactive enough to have such a committee. I think now Kenyans have learned and Parliament has learned, and so Parliament has come up with this committee that will now try to look at those issues of state capture. Probably the 14th Parliament will come up with something that is more ingenious, probably more advanced, but I think we are growing as a country. And so we want to study the state capture, we want to get views from people, we want to see where state capture is. And then with that we can address it as Parliament, not as coalitions Kenya Kwanza or coalition Azimio. Because at the end of it all, this Kenya belongs to all of us. Today you are in government, like we saw Jubilee was in government last time. Now they are in the opposition. And so this country is for all of us. So today Kenya Kwanza could be in government. Probably we do not know what will happen next time. Probably Kenya Kwanza will be in the opposition. But at the end of it all, Kenya will remain as Kenya. And so I think as a country, I'm not of a very serious opinion that people should not cross floor. In fact, it is accepted. You can cross floor if you believe that government is doing right. Even me, if government start doing very right,
you will shift gears.
Why not?
Okay.
At the end of it all, what we're looking at is the Kenyan person, benefiting. But if they are not, if the Kenyan government is not doing the right thing, then we will remain to question the government on behalf of the people. So it is all about what do you want as Kenyans?
Okay. All right. Mushiba, we'll come to you and perhaps get to understand whether there's an ultimate goal to this and whether it is for the good of the people of Kenya. But allow us to take a quick short break. We come back to that.
How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands. Every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates.
Kacheliba Member of Parliament, Honorable Titus Lote is with us this morning, as well as the Member of Parliament of Embakasi North, Mheshimiwa Jimmy Gakuya. And so what is the ultimate goal? Because you understand that these conversations are there, that UDA seeks to be that party that will be as formidable as the numerous ones that we've seen in, you know, the bigger powers, as well as what is happening in Tanzania, our neighboring, the Chama cha Mapinduzi. And even better is that when we're talking about parliament, there is that desire for you to have total control, or for the president to have at least, you know, some good control, so that when even we're talking bills, we're talking about issues that are supposed to be, you know, fronted by the Kenya Kwanza team, at least they get to enjoy backing. And we know that some of these issues will crop up day in, day out, like what we saw with Iyala and the unison in which, you know, some members of parliament spoke to, you know, front these young faces to the level of Iyala. It's all about lobbying and also that aspect of total control. So what is the ultimate goal, and how genuine is it that it will be about the people of Kenya?
Really, what I can tell you is that the debate is very healthy, and no single government in the whole world could wish to be a government of the minority in terms of registration. One thing is that, in fact, our constitution is very clear that it has given strength to three bodies. And this is the executive, legislature, and the judiciary, which are totally independent. And there is no way that the government can have a smooth ride without a good relationship with the registrant. And in this particular case, you realize the tradition of the registration is by power of the numbers. These numbers are in terms that if there is a bill or if there is a motion, at the end of the day, that motion, there will be a vote. And that vote, the determining factor is that vote. If the majority are for yes, aye, then the ayes will have it. If the majority are for the nay, then the motion will be dropped. And that's how the government is there to make sure that, in fact, they mobilize to have the majority always in the House, to make sure that actually their objectives are being taken care of. Not even Dr. William Ruto's government. Any other government must need to have this support in the floor of the House, both in the Senate and in the National Assembly. I can tell you, and I gave you last time, an example of county government, which the governors were popularly elected from maybe a UDA party, but they were short in numbers. Those numbers in terms of MCs in their respective assemblies, and it is a tall order, because since as much as the numbers are minimum, You cannot be able to have strength to have what we call speakers of that particular houses as national the county assemblies. At the same time, the way that our standing also are being defined is that the majorities are the ones who at least also takes the control of the committees. In this case is the majority, and also the various number of positions which are there for chairmen of different committees. The minority have their say because they have their minorities, they have their minority in whip, and also they have the areas of concern because they have the set aside areas of their care, which is maybe to take audits into how the government works. And that's why committees like PSC, PIC, implementation, and maybe some few others are purely left for purpose of those who are in minority to keep checks into the running of the government. And in this case, I would say it is total health, and there is no any blackmail for any single party or member to join the ruling. But by your will, you can decide, yes, me, I don't want to be left out. I just want to work with the government. And because you are elected to serve your people, if you feel that you can only serve your people when you are government, and your party allows you to do that, because it's only your party which can whip you and nobody else. If the party allows to, or agrees to work with the government, I don't find any harm there. And that is why we have parties like UDM with a number of senators, with a number of MPs, which have just willingly joined the government. There are those who are independent. Independent, they can choose because they are free to choose whether to work in the support of those who are in the minority or whether to work with those who are in the majority. This is purely one individual's decision and also support from the party. There is party right now we have the Jubilee Party. The Jubilee Party, like now, their candidates who appointed themselves to go to Yala. And if you read the numbers that actually their candidates got, actually they are so far beyond the numbers they have in the floor of the House. Where do you expect the other numbers came from? The other numbers came from the other side. And that's how it works. And that's how it will be working. Because at the end of the day, the tradition is the majority will carry their day. And the minority will have their say. And that's it. All right. That tradition will be there, and unless we change our standing orders, that's how it is crafted, and that's where we are. Yes. The head of state will require to see the bills sailing through, and making sure, because those are the bills that will be able to give him clear window of implementing his manifestos. And it's no short of that.
Yes. All right, Mheshimiwa, just how quick should people start having these conversations of impeachment? Because we see them rife in Meru County, that has to the governor, that 68 out of 65 Meru members of County Assembly have drafted an impeachment motion against the Governor Kawira Mwangaza, and that as well is a replica of what is happening at the level of Parliament, that today, only or barely 70 days in office, that is President Ruto's government is facing the headwinds, and we have already had these conversations of impeachment talks leveled against Moses Kuria based on his utterances, and perhaps just the utterances of other, leaders that sit within the Kenya Kwanza coalition, the Deputy President himself, and the fact that there's been a report raised at the level of Parliament that the majority leader equally is not so polite, a little bit rude and tough, as many would have put it. What does it speak of this very government, and how quick do they need to move to tame such? Because then it's quite an undoing.
Well, thank you. I think the reason why people elected Kenya Kwanza, well, the difference between the electorates, the ones that elected Kenya Kwanza and those that elected Azimio presidential candidates, the difference was very small, 200,000. So we're actually talking about probably equally balanced country in terms of views. But I think for us to start speaking about impeachment, I cannot say it is not early or it's early, because the Constitution does not give you a timeline of when you should start speaking about impeachment. So I think impeachment is an open check for anybody who wants. You can even be impeached the very first day you come in, if people believe that you can be impeached. But
is it so not process, like 100 days after or something of that nature?
I do not think there is a place that has been written that you should first of all complete this amount of number of days before you can be impeached.
Maybe that would be brought aboard by the numerous processes that one has to go through before they are impeached.
Yeah, the reason why you cannot just be kicked out of the office, there are processes.
Yes.
Because impeachment basically means it's a view of person or view of people or view of parties that believe that you are not doing the right thing. And so if we start speaking about impeachment of the Meru governor, you actually saw how dramatic it was when they were beginning with the MCS, and I knew this was coming. It could be personal issues, it could be administrative issues, but I think we'll wait until when the impeachment motion comes up, and then we can see what they're accusing the governor of. But I think in terms of speaking of impeachment of the cabinet secretary, Moses Kuria, the members of parliament are also testing the waters.
Yeah.
But also the members of parliament are sending a very strong signal to the cabinet, because one, there's a clause that being introduced in parliament, and the president is in support of that we can be able to call the members of the cabinet to come and answer questions in parliament. That was not there before, because most of the cabinet secretaries will send a representative. But this time I think they will be coming themselves in person to answer those questions. Then the members of parliament are actually sending signals. They are actually sending warning to the cabinet secretaries to be responsible as to whether this impeachment motion will go through or not. I think there is a message that is being sent. But also I want us to look at developed countries. Developed countries, a prime minister, we've seen them resigning because of their utterances. We saw one that resigned just by sending, because he was mistakenly sent an official communication through his personal email.
Yeah.
And that actually warranted him to resign. If this was a developed country, Moses Kuria by himself will have resigned by just speaking carelessly like he did.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think we are a country that we are growing. We are not an exception, but I think we are also setting a precedent to say, if you become careless, we will be there for you. We will come for you. And there are guys that are going to sign this petition, not because they don't want the GMO, because they hate how Moses Kuria addressed Kenyans. Yeah.
All right, Mheshimiwa, these utterances, while we all want to look at them and perhaps just wash them away or, overlook them, they are a great undoing. And sometimes you ask yourself, while, some of us have, interacted with Moses Kuria at level, a personal level, sometimes it would appear as though it was just a joke, roadside declaration. What does it mean, especially at this point where he holds a very important office?
One thing, Linda, is that public is, it is the public domain that actually they are aware of Moses' character. But that does not mean that he has just an open check just to pronounce anything he may decide. There before, when he was a member of parliament, probably he could be able to say anything in public, because actually probably he will not he could not be able to be accountable for. But at this particular point in time, he is presenting a ministry which is purely a national ministry that concerned to his particular area, and it is important for him just to caution and tame himself, so that at least whatever he releases to the public is exactly what the public would like to hear, and exactly what is within the agreement of the level of the cabinet, so that it does not be seen as if it is his own creation. And also, at some point, maybe some rude statements need to be also corrected, because when you say Kenyans are maybe have what we call a certificate of death. Yes, death is there to everybody, because everybody will die, but does not mean that Kenyans are the one who are at most that actually the death is just off in any stage. And therefore, those are areas that he should caution, because at the end of the day, the blame will stop to the appointee authority, which is the head of state. And who is getting embarrassed is now the driver, who is the head of state. And therefore, I believe for the importance of the image of the government, it is important. Because I can say maybe teething issues because they are green in their capacities of their positions, but it is important for them now to tame themselves and make sure that they are within the mandate of a cabinet minister who is responsible, who can be able to pronounce himself to any statement, but and get accountable to that.
That this gentleman that we have mentioned would not go ahead to apologize, but instead appear to go silent on the matter, or by a large extent justify the reason as to why they made such utterances. What does that mean, and what lesson does it serve to, for instance, the president, who will be forced to make lots of appointments during his reign, in terms of even rewarding loyalists, and some of the key things to look at before you make such crucial decisions and set individuals of various nature into specific offices?
I think the buck, like he said, will stop at the president. The president needs to rein on his ministers, and I think if the president means well for this country, and the president, I believe, means well for this country,
yes,
he needs to ask, first of all, reprimand his minister openly, so that we know that he does not support what Moses Kuria said. The president needs to call for apology, public apology by his minister.
Yeah.
If he does that, then people will get confident that the president is not part of what his ministers are saying. Two, I think the president needs to be looking at the characters of people. And the reason why you have to go through Chapter 6 and, of the Constitution before you're appointed into office, they look through your character. They look through all the records that you've got. I think that is not just a formality purpose.
Yeah.
They always want to get things out. And like he has just said, we know the character of Moses Kuria. That is what people say, we know his character.
Yes.
And so basically people know some bit of Chapter 6. If people are asked to rate him, people will say, yeah, that is him. That is Moses Kuria. And I think the president needed not to look only at the loyalty, because there are too many people that are loyal to the president. Out of the 7.1 million people, he can get people that are loyal to him and people that are also well-mannered, or people who can actually be able to present themselves in decorum before the public. And so for me, I actually say the president needs to be very careful, because at the end of it all, like he says, the agony of what the statements that were said by Moses Kuria, the shame does not go to Moses Kuria, it goes to the president. And if he keeps silent, he becomes silent on this matter without apologizing, and the president is comfortable, then we might be forced to think probably the president condones this.
All right. Well, that is quite interesting. The IEBC, I don't even know whether we're supposed to be talking about the IEBC at this point. It feels like we're in that election period. It is supposed to conduct a couple of by-elections, but equally it faces lots of challenges. Three are supposed to exit the stage by January. Should be the 23rd, if I am not wrong. But of course, there's a lot of hullabaloo that remains as to the confirmation of these very offices, the Cherera 4, and now these ones, the likes of Chebukati, that are being accused of expenditure that is on the coffers of the IEBC, and definitely that is the taxpayers' money. What does it speak of it? And are we foreseeing a scenario where around February there will be totally no commissioners in the IEBC office, and that a conversation to trigger formation of a new office will be on? Mheshimiwa?
Yes, let me say, the situation we are in, obviously the number of the commissioners tenure is going to end by January. And therefore, take into consideration that the position of the chairman is just not any other commission. The Constitution has stipulated the qualities that actually the chairman has to meet before being appointed as the chair. So you may find that even the 4 who are going to remain in the office, none of them has such qualities. And therefore, there is a serious need to make sure that we have a chairman who will take over from Chebukati. Coming to the 4 number of commissioners, as a Kenyan who was a part of the election cycle that was concluded the last few months, I would say that the 4 number of commissioners actually to me, they committed an offense. And it's an offense that actually they could be possibly ban this country. When, at a point, they were part of the process, and they were owning the process. But at the tail end, they decided to pull out with maybe instruction where it came from. I don't want to know. But it is very suspect that the statement they made at Selena was repeated by the opposition leader, Raila Odinga, word by word. And this tells Kenyans there was a caucus between the four and so then opposition leader, because how comes the statement that was read by the four was the exact statement read by the opposition leader, Raila Odinga, during his press conference. This was a pure suspect that these four number were pushed or probably were persuaded to pull out purposely for a mission to make sure that the process was not coming to a conclusion. And to me, that serious offense is not offense that I can say that I will forgive somebody. I will just, this I'm talking at my personal level.
They should go home. That
these four has to go home. None of them can be able to stand the test, because it is already the point and place that we are just about to sink this country could be of very injurious that probably nobody could be able to salvage it or rescue it. At that particular point, I would say, they were not strong enough to stand by their independency, and they were influenced from outside forces to take action that they took totally against the will of Kenyans. And they were just about to overturn the will of Kenyans. To me, I cannot give them even a day to be in the office. And therefore, I will be part of those who will be seeking their removal from office.
Well, interesting. Mheshimiwa, I don't know whether you make, what you make of this, and also on these commissioners that are supposed to exit the stage come January. The reports that we receive is that they have refused to go for terminal leave, and at the same time that they are out there gobbling funds. I don't know whether this is substantiated, but you have seen the members of parliament allied to the Azimio side bringing this to the fore. Do we need to look into this matter? And is that a polite way, if it is true, that then they are being rewarded for, what would appear as though they accorded this presidency to this other side?
Well, personally, I'll support my colleague, because we are held responsible by our actions, and even by what we're taking. We are actually now admonishing Moses Kuria for what he said. We are actually against what he said, despite the fact that he's in government. But at the same time, we cannot be able to support the four. Personally, I cannot support the four. Because, when you took out of office, you actually say you're going to act in truth and in justice. So if there was an election, which then Azimio lost, though through a small margin, as a person, you need to be convicted to say they have won, Kenya Kwanza has won. The fact that you could take a press statement and actually negates what the people had spoken through their ballot is a wrong thing by itself. So for me, I will not say because I'm in Azimio or because I'm in Kenya Kwanza that that I'm going to support people that will have actually banned this country. Because if this country had sparked and there was fightings, it will have been because of the four. And so I cannot say Kenya will have banned because of the four. And this should be a lesson to not only the winning, the government, the opposition now, but also should be a pointer to the people who are in government now, because there is going to be an election again after this, and an election after that, and an election after that. So that anybody that takes up an electoral process should be a neutral referee that can say things as it is, not pushed by anybody. So I personally will say the things that the four commissioners did were wrong. They will have left the politician to square it by themselves and just give it as it is. We know what happens when during Kipvitu time in 2007. The country banned because one person called Kipvitu then just declared an illegitimate person as a president, and people fought in this country, and there are people that buried, there are people that lost their relatives. This country got a very bad name, and so we did not want to go that direction. So for me, I will actually say, you'll be held responsible by what you say. Even what I'm saying in this studio, I'm supposed to be held responsible for what I'm saying. If it is wrong, let me be held responsible as a person.
Right.
So for us to actually say it is wrong for us to get these people off office, it doesn't, for me, it is not wrong.
Yeah.
If they did something wrong, they need to take action for their responsibility for their action. In terms of the 3 commissioners that are supposed to go, I think they are still in office legally until January, and therefore, because they are still in office legally, they can be allowed to spend as long as they are spending within the parameters that are allowed by this country. In any case, there is the Auditor General that will go and see whether these people gobble monies illegally, and then they can be also held responsible during their time or not. So for me, as long as they are still in office, let them do what they're supposed to do. For those that have actually been found culpable for having breached the code of ethics in this country within the work, let them carry their cross.
All right.
Nobody else will carry it. I'm not going to carry anybody's cross.
That's true.
I'm not going to carry it. They did wrong. It was wrong for me.
All right. Yeah. Okay, fair enough, gentlemen. Time moves very fast. A couple of matters here that I would have wished to touch on, but that would not be allowed by time. But I have to admit and appreciate the contributions that have been made to be those ones that are instrumental towards making the best of the country. Mheshimiwa, I'll allow you a minute or so to give us your parting shot.
I'm just sympathizing with your gender candidate for Meru gubernatorial.
Right.
That since we have a big trust with that gender, how comes that actually one cannot be able to redeem and just mingle with the rest of, because actually we have, the constitution has stipulated that actually you have to get what we call checks and balances. And once you ignore those checks and balances, how do you think that you can survive in such a county? You cannot be a one-man show. And therefore, I think people can teamwork for the better of the country and the better of that county. But how does you think that actually that good leader can be able to perform any duty by locking the entire checks and balances, and which are well mandated to take their law by the constitution? I think there is an issue there, but I think that in fact, though, I thought that actually Kabila was so green, but at this point, I think she must have learned, she must have sought consultation from other experience, like the chairman of COG and so on. And I still sympathizing that maybe the impeachment is not the right way, but I still urge that may she redeem and consider that actually there is a bigger picture of the Meru constituent factor, that actually she is in office to serve and she can't serve alone. Can you consider just to harmonize with the team and work for the betterment of the county?
All right, a toll for her indeed. But like you rightfully put it, being part of this gender, I think I would hope for the same. Mheshimiwa.
Thank you so much. As we are actually talking about food security in this country, we also need to look at our internal security.
Yeah.
Personally, I'll actually say
there's
that
a big problem with that.
There's a big problem as well.
Yeah.
So let us not shift focus, because in the near past, we were talking about human internal security. Now GMO has come, so we are talking about food security. We have quickly forgotten that there is the aspect of the human security and the internal security. I think the Minister for Internal Security, Mr. Professor Kindiki, actually talked very tough recently about what is happening, and we had that yesterday. He was in Mwingi and there were gunshots running everywhere, and his function was interrupted. In Mwingi or in, I cannot be very sure, Kitui.
Yeah.
And you know, there is this aspect where Kenyans believe that gunshots are only in West Pokot and Baringo, and those are the guys that are bad. I think let it be a wake-up call to every Kenyan that insecurity is affecting everybody in this country, and the aspect of trying to actually say it is only in West Pokot should be wrong. But then that is not my real point. My point is, let the government not slumber in ensuring that we are secure as a country. As we speak now, Linda, 2 weeks ago we buried somebody. We buried a son and a father who were killed. 2-3 days ago, again, along the Pokot border, there are killings People are being killed all the time.
Yeah.
And yet, what we see from government all the time is they speak very harshly about how they're going to get the bandits or they're going to get rid of them. But the government will pass and this situation will be there. I will still say, as we look at food security, let us look at how we can be able to transform these people, the bandits that are actually affecting the whole country. No, now it's not in West Pokot again. And I want Kenyans to be very clear. I come from West Pokot. I don't own a gun. All this mechanization of saying West Pokot, Baringo is where guns are, it is wrong. Actually, that kind of systemic exclusion of people based on where they're coming from is wrong. And I want the president and the minister for internal security to consider this country as being very insecure internally. Look at the city, for example. There's a lot of insecurity in the city. You can be mugged, you can be killed in the city. Somebody was telling me within a week, if you go to Mama Lucy, 67 cases of people mugged, people knifed, people, all these kind of things. I think the government should not now go to GMO or to parliament or to commissioners and forget the very essence why government is supposed to be there. Government is supposed to provide a conducive environment to every Kenyan to be able to thrive. And if insecurity is something that the government cannot deal with, then Kenyans are going to the dogs.
We have a big problem that on the question of insecurity, and especially that by the day it escalates, there is certainly that need for us to look at where it is that the rain started beating us and have this addressed in the most amicable
in the
and fast way.
We have a very serious threat.
In fact, it's bad.
And especially from what we call street families. Street families have turned to be muggers. And they are mugging in big group of 30 to 40. So there's no way you can survive once you are 1 or 2. Even though you are 5, you can still be fixed. And actually, there's nothing much you can do when you are being orchestrated by 40 number of those families. So I think something has to be done. And this is a duty has to be taken in a joint between the county and the national government to make sure that this menace is not going to be there. I'm sure that it's totally out of order when we allow the city to be led by what we call those street families. And I think it's high time that they should be taken back to the centers and control has to be there. And finally, let me say that in fact, in terms of security leader, the government is capable of disarming all these ammunition carriers. So the minister in charge today, take your job and make sure that take your job on a serious note and just use new methodologies. Don't follow the old routes to any this.
Exactly. We've done the old for the longest of time without results. Asante sana waheshimiwa. You are lovers of football?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Oh, all right. So the game is on and you must be very happy.
We are good fans.
Okay, all right. And because it's on for everybody, even those ones that are not lovers. Some of us who really do not know much about football are also glued on our stations.
This time we are lucky.
It's for everybody.
We are lucky that actually the